I missed last week's episode because I was hot into a confident bombshell challenge. And when I run those, I do hour-long calls every single day. And I get really excited for it and I bring the energy, but then doesn't leave much energy outside of that to get my episode done. However, coming off of the challenge, we were talking a lot about structure and how building structure allows for flexibility in your everyday plan to be able to eat what you want, move how you want to move, think how you want to think, be flexible with all your health and fitness behaviors when a season of life changes. And I feel like for a lot of women that come into our community, one of the seasons of life that they're in is feeling sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. They feel stuck. They've tried every diet out there. They've done all the fitness trends. They see results until they don't see results. So they go through the vicious cycle. You're probably not new to it. I know I've experienced it. I know a lot of women have experienced it. And so when people come in, they're looking for fat loss. They're looking for body composition change. If we can really get them into the body that they want and they desire, and then they don't have to think about it anymore, and they don't have to think about what piece of clothing they're putting on or what they're eating, and is that gonna make me fat or is that gonna slow down my results? They don't have to worry about going out and socializing. They can do it freely and know how to fit it into their everyday plan. They can be in the picture without worrying about how they look. Sorry, my hand's really shaking right now because I'm holding up my camera thing. Anyway, what I thought I would share with you today, because that's what most people are wanting at the beginning, because then once they have the physical transformation and they get back all that mental bandwidth, they start to have an upward spiral mentally and emotionally. And that's where it's at. That's when you live life more freely. You live life with more abundance. You live life being unshakable and unbreakable, and you feel strong, you feel powerful, and you feel vibrant, and you feel energized. And so I'm gonna share with you 5 best fat loss tips today. So if you are someone who is building a mindful, structured plan with fat loss as the intention, how can you focus on 5 tips to make it easy and effortless for you to get really fit? All right, here we go. Tip number 1, food volume matters when you're in a fat loss phase. What do I mean by that? You have nutrient-dense food and you have calorie-dense food. But nutrient-dense food is packed full of nutrients. It's super voluminous, so you get more bang for your buck, meaning less calories, more nutrients, and it's super filling compared to calorie dense, where it might be the same amount of calories as something else, but it's super dense, it's super small. It's not gonna keep you very full very long. I actually did an episode doing a visual of calorie dense versus nutrient dense and what would fill you up more. But when you're in a fat loss phase, you need to eat stuff that's going to fill your stomach up, because naturally you're eating less than you burn in a day to burn some body fat, which is gonna result in some hunger. That's normal. Embrace the hunger. But some easy tips and tricks for how to bump up the volume when you're in a fat loss phase is what I'm gonna show you right now. First, vegetables. No better way to fill up your stomach than eating voluminous vegetables. And typically, the more green, the more voluminous, the less calories they are, the more nutrient dense. So 2 of my favorites when I'm in a fat loss phase, okay, 3. Big salad, right? Like you make a massive green lettuce salad, whether it's iceberg or romaine or a Boston or a red blend, whatever it is, make a giant combo of it. It takes longer, like texture-wise, to actually chew it and digest and absorb it, and it fills up your stomach more. So it's gonna make you think that you're fuller longer because of that volume. So big salads are great. Making soup that's packed full of different veggies and lean proteins and broth, which broth is super low calorie, that's a great way to do it. And again, you're slowing down the pace of eating. It takes a lot longer to eat soup than other stuff, so it makes your brain connect with your actual stomach, like, hey, I'm getting full and satisfied. So that's my second thing for volume. And then choosing the different vegetables. Zucchini is key. You can eat so much zucchini, and because it has so much water in it, that water is gonna help you fill you up more. So I always go like zucchini, green beans, cucumbers when I'm in a fat loss phase, and salad, but really any vegetable is good. I would just be mindful of the starchier vegetable carbohydrates, like your carrots and your beets and your sweet potatoes. Nothing wrong with having those, but if you're trying to stay in a window for fat loss of how much you're eating, sometimes the more calorie dense carbohydrates, they might not fill you up as much. So start with vegetables. Fruit is the exact same way. I forgot to grab my banana. All right, pretend I had a banana in my head. So a banana, which is delicious, it's a great nutrient for you, it has a lot of calories in a very small amount, where if you switch that for something like berries, so you choose a lower sugar, lower carbohydrate fruit, you can get a lot more bang for your buck to fill up your stomach more. So doing a simple switch like that from an apple or oranges or berries or even some sweet melons to berries, you're gonna get, pretty good food volume. Lean proteins. This is where you wanna switch from fattier proteins to lean proteins. There's nothing wrong with having good fat or fat in your protein, but fat is 2 times the amount of calories of a protein or carb, and it doesn't leave you as full as long. So protein is the most satiating of the nutrients. So you really wanna prioritize that first above everything else. Make sure you hit that number, and then you can play around with your carbs and fats and choose more voluminous foods. But this is where you wanna go leaner on the options of protein. Chicken breast, pork tenderloin, top sirloin, 96.4 lean ground beef, Greek yogurt. This is a great one. Again, texture-wise, like if you just focus on, wow, 1 serving of this is 18 grams of protein and it's only 90 calories, that fits really easy into a fat loss plan. And then you can dress it up with some protein powder to bump up even more protein, maybe some sugar-free Jell-O powder, put the berries in it, and you've got a pretty satiating, voluminous meal. And egg whites. When you're in a fat loss phase, just have egg whites on hand. And you can make a giant egg white scrambler, which is pretty big in a serving size with a lot of protein. Add a bunch of those veggies in there, and that's gonna keep you full. So liquid egg whites, have them on hand in a fat loss phase. They are key. Okay, so that's tip number 1, is choose foods that are voluminous. Number 2, hydration. Hydration is absolutely key when you're in a fat loss phase because your energy is going to dip. When you have less food coming in, food being like the makeup of calories, calories being the makeup of energy, your energy is gonna drop because you're not consuming as much, right? And that can make you want to eat more to bring your energy level back up. And so you wanna have hydration dialed in. You wanna have water readily available with you at all times, drinking half your body weight in ounces. If you can get up to a gallon a day, 128 ounces, that's really gonna keep your energy levels up, and it's gonna help distract you from wanting to eat. Now, if you're like, well, I just get really bored with regular water, I mean, you can dress it up. You can add some fresh mint and some diffuse it with some fresh fruit. You can do sparkling water, so you can have carbonated, something with a little bit of bubbles, a little bit of flavor. Or this is the time when calorie-free drinks, they will give you a different flavor and they will fill up your stomach because of the bubbles. So one that I like to do when it's really hot in Texas is I just do this zero Gatorade because it gives me electrolytes, and so that kind of helps too with the energy dip. It's a different flavor, and again, I just feel like I'm getting hydration. So tip number 2, make sure you're staying hydrated when you're in a fat loss phase. Tip number 3, know how to distract yourself, okay? So you really have to understand your behaviors and which ones are serving you and are helping you reach your goals and becoming leaner, and which ones might be pulling you away from those. So let's give you an example. Maybe you are a boredom eater, or maybe it's that 3 to 5 p.m. where you're like, I just want a chocolate pick-me-up at work just to get me through the rest of the day. Or opposite, maybe you're a mom and you're like, okay, activities are starting, 3 to 5 is crazy, I get a little anxious, I wanna eat snacks. And so have some distraction techniques in place to just rechange the thought that you're having, right? You need to recreate a new chemical loop. So if the behavior wasn't serving you before and you went into that anxious eating and that boredom snacking, now you're when that time of the day happens, I'm set up for success. I'm creating mindfulness and awareness. And so you have your approved go-to snacks that still bring you enjoyment, but fit into your fat loss plan. And so you bring them with you when you go pick up the kids from school. So you give them their snack and then you get to eat yours, and it still fills your cup, right? Or you're walking into the pantry and you're like, wait a minute, ask myself, am I actually in the mood for something in the pantry? Is this a craving or is this hunger? What's going on? And in order to kind of stop that action from happening, I love to tell people drop down and do 20 body weight squats, right? Or do a set of push-ups or march in place. Movement gives you that dopamine hit, and it helps you get into a more mentally clear, focused state, and it interrupts the behavioral pattern. So you just have to have a couple different distractions for when you're about to do something that you're like, I'm not sure if this is in alignment with how I want to show up right now in my fat loss phase. You distract yourself, and then you can come from a more mindful state to make the decision if you actually want to do that action next. So that is my next fat loss tip. Number 4. Keep it super simple when it comes to being in a fat loss phase. So in my program, I'm all about giving yourself full permission to literally have whatever food you want it in the amount that you want it that best serves your goals. But when you are really trying to get leaner, you're gonna probably pull on all of the different tools that are gonna make it as easy and effortless to get into that body. One of the ways to do that is to eat mostly single ingredient foods, still build in something to look forward to so you always feel that bit of enjoyment, and then buy things that are easy to weigh, measure, and prep and put into a tracking app like MyFitnessPal. So I always recommend like, hey, 2 to 3 lean protein sources a week. Like, what do you enjoy eating? What is convenient for you to make? What is your family like? So you have 2 to 3 of those on hand. 2 to 3 rotating vegetables. Again, vegetables are voluminous. They're gonna fill you up. Maybe 2 to 3 starchier carbs. So you know, like, hey, those might be a little bit more calories, but they're gonna really help my energy stay nice and stable while I'm in this fat loss phase. 2 to 3 different fruits, and then a couple different good fats. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to get too fancy when you're in a fat loss phase and try to make all these recipes and figure out how much you're having. Like, this is where we want to do the KISS, keep it simple, and make it as easy and effortless to get the food from the store prepped to your plate in the amount that you need it to best hit your goals. So just choosing 2 to 3 from each category and knowing how to make them and how to weigh and measure it and enjoy it with a little bit of flavor is key. Number 5. Easy substitutions when you're in a fat loss phase. What does that mean? Well, I was already talking about, okay, you could substitute these higher carb vegetables like carrots and beets for something lower like, you know, cucumber or zucchini, or take bananas and sub them with berries. These are also really key. A lot of us don't realize, so you get a lot of calories from all the different like sauces that you have in a day, maybe your creamer in the coffee, like little things add up. So if you just kind of look at like, how am I flavoring my food most of the time, and how many calories is that really costing me? So one easy switch, if you're creamer in the coffee, obviously you could go from like half and half to like skim milk. I don't think that tastes very good, but you figure out what works best for you. I do love flavored creamers. So this is when I'll go with more of like a sugar-free, zero sugar type option, because 1 tablespoon is 15 calories. So that saves me a pretty significant amount from the regular version. And it's only in the interim, right? It's only in the short term while I'm dropping calories. This helps me do it easily. Sauces, salad dressings, all those different kind of things. Using a bunch of oil to cook in, that's so many calories. You could just use an oil spray to manage the amount that you're actually serving yourself. But sauces, I feel like, are a great one. Regular barbecue sauce is like 80 calories. And if you're not measuring it, you're probably using well above that. And so switching it out for something like G Huge, which is sugar-free, this is 10 calories for the same serving size. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is delicious. Peanut butter is not that much for a serving size when you actually measure it out. It's actually really disappointing. But if you're in a fat loss phase, you're like, okay, we know protein's gonna fill me up more. We know the good fats are great to have in, but you know, peanut butter, I don't know, it's like one of those things that like 2 tablespoons is generally not enough for me. It doesn't fill me up. Switch it with something like PB Fit. It's going to bump up your protein. It's gonna be way less calories. So really getting clear as to how to make your substitutions of the things that you like just to kind of save on calories, to make it easier to stick in the fat loss phase, is key. Okay, so those are my 5 tips of how to stay in that fat loss phase. And if you're like, you know what, going into the holiday season, like I'm committing to still being in the best body ever, that's a great place to start and to make it easy and effortless to start getting some traction towards that body you want. Hopefully it all made sense. Let me know in the comment what tip resonated best with you and what would you like to see more of on a future episode. All right, that's all I got. Chat soon.